Diddy woke up this morning inside the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. The federal jail has been called, quote, hell on earth.
He can't go into a regular housing unit because somebody will take him out for sure.
Diddy's attorney revealing the worst thing about jail for the rapper. According to People magazine, his lawyer said, quote, I think the food's probably the roughest part of it.
I would expect that he would not be in the general population. His incredibly high celebrity status makes him a very, very attractive target for assault.
One of the biggest names in hip-hop, a true mogul who spent decades at the top, now finds himself in a place so bleak it's described as hell on earth. Diddy, the icon, the visionary, the man who once had the world at his feet, is now living a reality that's worlds away from the luxury and power he's known. Right now, he's locked up, stripped of everything that once made him untouchable. No more 5-star suites, no private jets, no entourage, just cold, empty walls, and the relentless stare of guards who never look away. For a man who once controlled empires, who was the very embodiment of power, this might be the ultimate punishment. Diddy is living 24/7 under constant surveillance, where every movement is watched, every action monitored.
We speak after a judge denied his request for bail a second time, and the place where he's locked up now getting a lot of attention. The Metropolitan Detention Center, the only federal jail in New York City, is known for violence, poor conditions, and a string of celebrity detainees. And Diddy's attorneys want him out. NBC News' Yasmin Youssein has more.
From his $48 million Miami mansion to hell on earth where chaos reigns. Just some of the words used to describe the Metropolitan Detention Center where Sean Diddy Combs is now being held without bail after pleading not guilty to sex trafficking and racketeering charges.
Combs abused, threatened, and coerced victims to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct.
He is not the first high-profile inmate to pass through these walls. Ghislaine Maxwell, R. Kelly, Pharma Bro, Martin Shkreli, and crypto fraudster Sam Bankman-Fried, all as they waited for their federal criminal trials, called this jail home. But the conditions of the prison are far from homey, notoriously described as, quote, dreadful, as one judge put it. Some on the bench have even moved away from sending nonviolent defendants there. In April, a group of detainees that prosecutors said were MS-13 gang members in court documents stabbed an inmate 44 times in an attack caught on camera. 2 shivs were recovered from the attack. You see them here. The victim survived. And in the last 3 years alone, 4 inmates have died by suicide. And violence is not the only issue. Accusations of medical neglect, staffing shortages, smuggling of drugs, some allegedly facilitated by employees. At least 6 staff members charged with crimes in the last 5 years, according to the AP. Some accused of accepting bribes and providing contraband.
I've had clients describe NBC as hell, as the worst conditions they've been in.
Lance A. Clark is a federal defense attorney who's been there many times.
Now, if the government is going to mandate that they are responsible for your well-being, they have to ensure the safety of your well-being.
Occupy the streets until they get heat.
In the winter of 2019, protests over a power outage left inmates without light or heat for a week in the cold.
Understand how cold it must be in those cells, and not to have any electricity, any lights, and to not be able to communicate with your family is just inhumane.
The prison has about 1,200 detainees and is the only federal prison in the nation's largest city. The DOJ shut down New York City's other federal jail, the Metropolitan Correctional Center, back in 2021, 2 years after Jeffrey Epstein died by suicide.
What happens when a celebrity, used to the finest luxuries and boundless privilege, is suddenly plunged into one of the country's most infamous jails? Imagine seeing Diddy Combs, the mogul who built his empire in the limelight, now facing the stark, unforgiving life behind bars. How does a man who's always had control fare when stripped of it all? Recent leaks have pulled back the curtain on his life inside, exposing shocking details about the brutal, day-to-day conditions within Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center. This isn't just any prison. It's a place with a dark reputation, having held high-profile names like Jeffrey Epstein and R. Kelly. But while it may be notorious for housing the powerful and infamous, it's even more notorious for its harsh treatment of inmates.
Diddy woke up this morning inside the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. The federal jail has been called, quote, hell on earth.
Some of the shocking things that you see are the manufacturing of weapons, assaults, inmates hid cell phones within their rectal cavity. Jails and prisons are very different from free society.
We spoke with Cameron Lindsay, the former warden of Diddy's jail. The facility accommodates around 1,200 detainees and once housed R. Kelly and Jeffrey Epstein's accused co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell.
I survived what I've been through.
I would expect that he would not be in the general population. His incredibly high celebrity status makes him a very, very attractive target for assault. He would be locked in that cell 23 hours a day, 3 showers a week. My advice would be keep quiet, keep to yourself. And it has to be more of a culture shock.
A rep for the Federal Bureau of Prisons tells ET that earlier this year, they appointed an urgent action team to address issues. It's their mission to operate safe, secure, and humane facilities.
Some sources claim Diddy is under daily psychological evaluations, while others hint at special treatment afforded to him because of his high profile. But the reality remains a complex, blurred line. Is he receiving protection from the harshest aspects of prison life due to his fame, or, ironically, has his celebrity status made things even tougher? This brings us to the question that looms over every detail of his time in custody. Is Diddy's fame acting as a shield against the notorious conditions of MDC, or is it amplifying his ordeal? Every privilege he once enjoyed on the outside seems to heighten the contrast with his current confinement.
I want to bring in Larry Levine. He is a former federal prisoner who served time at 11 institutions of various security levels in 5 different states, and he now advises people who are about to go to prison as the founder and director of Wall Street Prison Consultants. And of course, he's a friend of the show. So breaking news right now, Larry, I am just getting word. People Magazine says it's got a source on the inside that tells them that P. Diddy's on suicide watch tonight. Do your sources confer the same information? Are they saying it was possible?
Hey, real quickly, all that commissary stuff, he's not getting any of that because people in the SHU have an abbreviated list. So he's out of luck. No stake for him. Yeah, he is on suicide watch. This guy thought he would have went home. All of a sudden, he didn't get bond. Remember, the first night that he was there, he was like an overnight guest. When they told his bond hearing, now they checked him into the system, and reality has hit him. And I understand that he has a shrink coming by his cell to see him several times a day. And now there's talk about putting him in, it's like a bubble. It's like a cell that has like a plexiglass wall in it where they have inmates watching you. That's actually their job, to keep an eye on the inmates that are on suicide watch. Another error that I guess some warden told you this. There are sentenced inmates there. They're called cadre inmates. They don't have to be white collar inmates, but they're doing maintenance on the building. And the problem why there's a lot of violence there, they have housing units. And they're mixing bank robbers, drug dealers, rapists with white collar people. And this is why Diddy, he can't go into a regular housing unit because somebody will take him out for sure. Somebody's gonna get a lot of street credibility out of this. People that are doing substantial time that know they're never getting out. They'll just kill the guy. No questions asked.
As Diddy's case captivates the public eye, details from within Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center begin surfacing, pulling us into the depths of his day-to-day existence behind bars. Leaked insights from insiders paint a vivid, uneasy picture. On one side, we have multiple reports claiming that a psychological team visits him several times a day, monitoring his well-being. Prison consultant Larry Levine recently shed light on this, explaining that while Diddy isn't officially on suicide watch, the frequent mental health evaluations suggest a watchful eye on his ability to cope with the stark transition from luxury to confinement. These routine checkups aren't just precautionary, they reveal the mental strain that high-profile inmates face in a place as notorious as MDC. While such attention might seem reassuring, it underscores just how challenging life is within those walls. Each session serves as a reminder of the harsh adaptation process underway, pushing the limits of even the most resilient minds.
Inmate and director and founder of Wall Street Prison Consultants, Larry Levine, joins me now. Larry, welcome to the show. Thanks for being with me.
Glad to be with you.
So this jail's conditions, have been described as dirty, notorious for mice, maggots, inmate violence, power outages. You spent 10 years in 11 different facilities, so you know what life is like for him right now. Take us behind the scenes.
I was also at MDC Los Angeles. It's like a cookie cutter of the MDC in New York. So yeah, I do know. But he's sitting in the shoe. He's in the hole. And this guy is going through loneliness, anxiety, desperation. He's on suicide watch. And they hand out like psych meds, like they're M&Ms to these inmates to try to get them to cope with what's going on. So his entire existence is to sit in this little cell, essentially. He can shower 3 times a week. He's not getting any real visits. If his lawyer does a legal visit, they have to come upstairs into the special housing unit to see him. Now, have you seen these reports about all these commissary items they say that he could buy? Any of those?
What was one of them? Steak or something?
Ribeye, steak,
Yeah.
all kinds of nonsense. He's in the shoe, people. He's in a special housing unit. He cannot buy things off the regular commissary list.
On the flip side, prison consultant Larry Levin suggests that Diddy might be receiving what some see as special treatment, such as access to additional showers, a privilege unheard of for most inmates. But don't let this deceive you. Diddy's current reality is worlds apart from his life of luxury. Far from his Miami mansion, he's now confined to a cramped cell in Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center, MDC, a facility notorious for its violent outbreaks, fatal altercations, and crumbling infrastructure. Levin doesn't mince words when describing the dangers of MDC. He bluntly states he's not playing chess, he's surviving. The facility has earned a reputation as a war zone by legal experts, with recent inmate deaths and stabbings underscoring the brutal environment. Levin even speculates about the grave risks Diddy would face if he were ever moved into general population, vividly suggesting that any such transition could end in violence. If he makes it to GP, someone's going to stick a knife in him, Levin warns, adding that Diddy's only chance of safety is remaining in solitary confinement. In his words, they cannot GP him at all. There's a better chance of Jesus appearing in front of us than him making it in general population. Rumors about a possible transfer to a more cushy facility in Essex County, New Jersey, have circulated, but Levin quickly dispels these hopes. As Diddy is not a federal inmate but a U.S. Marshal detainee, such a move would require constant, high-security transfers to and from New Jersey for court appearances, logistically and financially unrealistic. According to Levine, they'd have to move him with a full escort, with cars ahead and behind him. They're not going to do that. So here's Diddy's harsh reality. He's stranded in one of the most notorious detention centers in the country with little hope for a transfer, and any hope for bail seems slim. His days unfold within MDC, a place often highlighted for its dysfunction and danger rather than reform. It's no secret that MDC has long been a center of controversy. Housing around 1,200 individuals, the facility is known for overcrowded conditions, inadequate staffing, and serious issues with violence and drug smuggling. Just this year, New York Representative Dan Goldman called for an official investigation, denouncing MDC as a place where human rights are repeatedly compromised. For Diddy, the walls of MDC are far more than just confinement. They are a brutal initiation into a system plagued by neglect and violence. No fame or wealth can shield him from the grim reality inside, and every day he remains there brings new challenges in a place designed to break spirits. It's a grim reminder of how quickly fortunes can change and how, even for the most powerful, the American justice system shows little mercy. Reports about deteriorating conditions at the Metropolitan Detention Center, MDC, highlight the grim environment facing both inmates and correctional staff. Chronic understaffing, continuous solitary confinement, and widespread violence characterize daily life within the facility. Recently, a federal judge cited these deplorable conditions as a reason to avoid sending a defendant to MDC. The judge describes seeing overcrowded cells, frequent lockdowns, and limited access to basics like showers, exercise, and outdoor time, all of which can have a severe impact on both physical and mental health. This year alone, MDC has seen 5 inmate deaths in under 6 months, including one recent tragic case where a family had to take a loved one off life support after an incident within the detention center. Albuquerque attorney Matt Coe, who has pursued numerous lawsuits against MDC over the past 2 decades, points to 2 main issues: inadequate medical care for inmates and a culture of violence among custodial staff. Many inmates with medical needs suffer without adequate treatment, with conditions worsening, in some cases even resulting in death. Coe also highlights the frequent violence among correctional officers, which, along with reported suicides and incidents involving drug withdrawal, reflects a deeply problematic detention system. For high-profile detainees like Diddy, survival in MDC isn't solely physical, but also psychological. Levin notes that Diddy isn't officially on suicide watch, but the psychological toll is apparent through frequent visits from the mental health team. Imagine the drastic shift from a life of luxury to isolation in a confined, harsh environment, where any semblance of control is surrendered to the system. Diddy's fame hasn't shielded him. In fact, it may have made his experience even more isolating. He's currently housed in the Special Housing Unit, SHU, a high-security area often reserved for inmates deemed high risk. The SHU provides an added layer of security, but it also means near-total isolation, a state that can challenge even the strongest minds. Inside the SHU, inmates are confined to their cells with minimal interaction, limited to just 1 hour out each day for essential tasks like showering, making phone calls, or briefly interacting with others. This isolation, while intended to ensure safety, often becomes its own form of psychological hardship, testing mental endurance in an already harsh environment. The tale of Diddy's incarceration inside the notoriously tough Metropolitan Detention Center, MDC, in Brooklyn reveals a stark reality that few outsiders fully understand. Known for its harsh conditions, MDC has a reputation that reaches far beyond its walls, marked by overcrowding, extended lockdowns, and minimal access to basic amenities. Federal judges have openly criticized the facility, citing its broken-down state and the severe psychological toll it takes on its inmates. Imagine being locked in a cramped, stifling cell for up to 23 hours a day, with little more than sporadic access to showers and minimal outdoor time. That's the reality Diddy now faces, and it's a far cry from his once lavish lifestyle. But MDC's challenges don't just stem from crumbling infrastructure. Staff shortages and relentless lockdowns create an atmosphere that breeds tension and instability. For high-profile inmates like Diddy, the experience is even more intense. He's housed in a special unit under maximum security, confined to his cell nearly all day with only 1 precious hour to stretch his legs outside, alone in a small enclosure. This kind of isolation isn't just physically taxing, it gnaws away at mental well-being. And for someone accustomed to freedom, fans, and family, it's a stark, punishing contrast. Then there's the psychological impact. For high-profile inmates, MDC imposes strict mental health check-ins, a process meant to stave off the toll of isolation. But even with these precautions, Diddy finds himself battling an overwhelming sense of confinement. The man once surrounded by crowds now spends his days behind steel and concrete, with only fleeting interactions with guards. The reality? These check-ins may bring him brief respite, but they don't alleviate the depth of loneliness that permeates his new life. Yet amid all this, Diddy's deepest concern lies beyond the prison walls with his children. His 7 kids are reeling from his arrest, trying to come to terms with the staggering shift in their lives. Sources close to the family reveal that Diddy's primary focus isn't on his own suffering, but on his kids' well-being. With only limited calls allowed, his connection to them has been reduced to brief, infrequent moments. It's a gut-wrenching shift for someone who built a life and career around his family, his fans, and the spotlight. These short calls are often the only solace he finds, the rare comfort that pierces through his bleak reality. In an emotional show of support, Diddy's children, Justin, Christian, King, Chance, Delilah, Jesse, and Quincy, recently rallied together to release a powerful statement on social media. They posted an impassioned message defending their father and calling out the rush to judgment that has overtaken social media. The post, written by Quincy, reads, "The past month has devastated our family. Many have judged both him and us based on accusations, conspiracy theories, and false narratives that have spiraled into absurdity on social media. We stand united, supporting you every step of the way, holding on to the truth, knowing it will prevail." Their words reveal the depth of their bond and the strength they draw from each other as they face the public eye, holding on to hope despite the harsh realities. But the battles aren't limited to the psychological toll and strained family ties. Even the basics, like food, are a struggle inside MDC. Diddy's attorney has shared that the food is perhaps one of the hardest parts of his new reality. Imagine trading gourmet dinners and luxurious spreads for the bare minimum of nutrition. Meals delivered to his cell with no chance for choice. There's no dining hall in MDC for high-risk inmates, no chance to interact with others over a meal. Instead, food is delivered straight to his cell, a stark reminder of his isolation. Reports indicate that he's been served items like Swedish meatballs, hardly the upscale dining he once enjoyed. It's a small detail, but it speaks volumes about the drastic shift he's experiencing, the slow grind of an existence stripped down to the bare minimum. And while his legal team works tirelessly to secure a move to a different facility, possibly in New Jersey, MDC remains steadfast in its policies. For the staff there, keeping Diddy on site is about maintaining strict control and adhering to institutional rules. They won't risk preferential treatment, even for a figure as famous as Diddy. Here, he's just another inmate, one among many facing a long and uncertain road ahead. As he adjusts to life within one of America's most challenging detention centers, one thing becomes clear. Diddy's fight isn't just with the charges he faces, it's with the crushing weight of incarceration itself. The same man who once ruled stages, influenced music, and lived life on his terms now finds himself in a cage, counting down the days in a place that shows no mercy. It's more than confinement. It's a sobering reminder of how quickly fortunes can change and how little power fame holds in a place like MDC. So, what's next for Diddy? As he waits for his day in court, he's left to confront this new reality daily. With every passing day, he battles isolation, scarce communication with his family, and the loss of a life he once knew. The conditions may be brutal, but for now, Diddy has no choice but to endure, locked away in a system that's unforgiving, unyielding, and blind to fame. The real question is, how will he navigate the days to come in this unforgiving place? Will he find a way to endure, or will the weight of it all prove too much to bear? Only time will tell, but one thing's certain. This chapter of Diddy's life is unlike anything he's faced before, a true test of resilience in the face of unrelenting hardship.